Audio Jungle.
Hi guys, it's Angela from Business Sense. I'm here today with Alan and Brian. Alan and Brian are from LEMS. LEMS is one of our editorial partners for Business Sense. They're going to explain to you a little bit now about what LEMS is, what it means, and then we're going to talk about upcoming webinars. So Alan, can you tell us, what does LEMS stand for?
Well, it stands for Legal Entity Management Systems. So effectively, that's what it's for, or that's what it stands for. And really what it is, it's to take a legal an entity and to manage it down to closure.
A legal entity being a trust?
A trust specifically, we're looking at a number of legal entities, but certainly for now we specialize in trusts.
Right.
So, and for now we're just looking at closing them.
Okay.
It's obviously become very pertinent in the industry.
Yes.
That we close trusts down. I think Brian's going to talk a little bit about why and what the fiduciary responsibilities are of trustees. It's just closing down legal entities and the legal entity being a trust.
Right. So we're going to talk a bit more about trusts today because we've got a series of webinars coming up. The first one, the topic is trustee risks and responsibilities. So without giving it all away, because we're going to be hosting that webinar next Thursday on the 27th of March at 6 p.m. Details to follow. Brian, do you want to just tell us a little bit about who will benefit from that webinar? Who should be there? What are we talking about specifically with regards to the trustee responsibilities?
My thoughts is, especially in KZN, because I've been doing this for years, but in KZN, there are a number of families and a number of trusts that have been formed with other family members or independent trustees as trustees on these trusts, and they don't really understand what they did when they signed up for this deal. So what happens is that they don't do anything for years and years and years, and they have no idea as to what risks they've exposed themselves to in respect to those trusts. So I think it really is anyone who's a trustee on a trust, whether it's dormant or whether it's got assets in it, but what have they signed up for? And really from a point of view of how do they make sure that they're not contravening any regulations that they shouldn't or they should be aware of. So I think what we have is the focus has become a lot more, there's a lot more focus on trusts at the moment largely because of the grey listing, and it was one of the issues that came up and they said, look, no one knows who the beneficial owners of these trusts are and what the responsibility of the people who should be administering these trusts. So I think what's happening is there's going to be more and more pressure placed on trustees to actually do their job properly, and those people need to actually listen to find out what they should be doing, because a lot of them are not doing or administering the trusts properly. So I think that's what we're going to be covering. What we're looking at is ultimately we're saying, look, if you're not doing it properly, our recommendation is to close this thing down and not have the trust, and that's where our focus is what you do thereafter. If you actually say, look, this is too much for us, let's get rid of them, that's when we really come into play.
Right. So is it from a legal standpoint, legal, SARS, all of these things? Because I think most people or members of a family that are part of a family trust actually have no idea what they should be doing, right? So this is what this is about. If you are a member of a family trust, you need to understand what your responsibilities are.
That's 100%.
That's in a nutshell.
And the other side of it is why do you have a trust?
Yes.
So if a person's got a trust, we can explore and say, look, is it effective for you? Is there still a bona fide reason for you having that trust? Or should we be looking at actually just moving the assets elsewhere?
Okay.
And there's a multitude of reasons as to why you shouldn't have a trust.
Right. So why would you start a trust? Let's say. Let's go back to the beginning.
It's estate planning. That's 99.9% of people do it because they want to put their assets in a trust. And they say, fine, if we put it in the trust, we can avoid a state duty in 50 years' time when I finally kick the bucket. That's 90% of people look at it as a tax saving scheme, but mainly a state duty. The other reasons are creditor protections, minor children, protection of minor children. There are other legal reasons, but if you look at most of the people who have set up trusts, they've been advised by their lawyers or by their accountants and said, look, do this, you can save tax in 20 years' time when you kick the bucket.
Yes.
So that's the reason.
And is that still the case?
Well, SARS have been, and I think if you look 20 years ago, it was quite effective. What's happened is the legislation has changed largely from a tax perspective. So there's still from a estate planning point of view, if you've got significant assets and you have put them in trust, you will save tax. What we're finding though is that beneficiaries are sitting not necessarily in South Africa, and then it becomes actually quite prohibitively expensive to have a trust in South Africa because the tax implications elsewhere are problematic. So the world's become more complex. So I think that's the whole thing. I think when they were set up, it was fairly simple. You said, look, we put it in a trust, 20 years time, we die, nothing gets taxed other than our loan account on that trust. In time, all these little things have been addressed, even from a SARS perspective, but from a beneficiary point of view, this is where we're getting a problem, is that you might have the parents or the grandparents in South Africa, but their beneficiaries are all over the world.
Right.
And then we really are heading into trouble.
Complicated.
It becomes very, very complicated.
Yes, okay. Well, that's good to know. So anyone who is living abroad or has parents in South Africa or siblings abroad, I think it's very, very important to attend this webinar. So we'll see you next Thursday at 6 o'clock. And we will send out invitations on Monday for that. So thanks for that, Brian and Alan. So we'll speak to you next week.
Perfect.
Good.
Thanks.
See you then. Thank you.
Audio Jungle.